So in today's lesson, we are going to take our work with the division algorithm and we are going to apply it within algebraic equations. So on the problem on page 298, it says Helen has 2,375 stickers. She wants to put them in an album. Each page in the album can hold 25 stickers. How many pages P can she fill? So they gave us a variable. So P is going to represent the number of pages. So P equals pages. So my first step that I'm going to do is I'm going to write this as an equation. And so the equation that I'm going to write is I'm going to start with the values that I know. I'm looking for P, okay? That's the total value that I'm going to be looking for. And to find that, I'm going to divide 2,375 divided by 25. And when I divide that value, it's going to tell me what P is equal to. So let me go ahead and set up my problem. I'm going to move this over a little bit so I keep my division problem. Or the other way that I can look at it before I jump into solving is I can do 2,375 divided by P is going to equal 25. Either way, division is what I'm going to need to solve it, and I'm going to be dividing 2,375. I'm going to be dividing that by 25. I'm going to do this in blue. So 25 is going to go into 237 5 times. And that's going to be 225. And when I subtract, I have 12 left over. I'm going to bring down the 5. 25 is going to go into 125 5 times. 5 times 25 is 125. I'm going to subtract. I have 0 left over. So my answer for this problem is P is going to equal 55 pages. She can fill 55 pages with stickers. Okay, take a look now down at the convince me. So the convince me says, what similarities do you see between the division equation 2,375 divided by 25 equals P and the multiplication equation 25P equals 2,375. And so when we look at these two values, or we look at these two equations, what we know that we have in common is we have P in common. We have 2,375 in common, and we have 25 in common. The other thing that we have in common is to solve for both of these equations, we need to divide 2,375 by 25. So that's the other thing that makes these two equations in common is I'm using division to solve for both of these problems. Okay, let's move on and take a look at your guided practice. We take a look at your guided practice. Number 1 says Darius used the multiplication equation 14t equals 3010 to solve a problem. Can he write a division equation to solve the same problem? So the answer on this is yes. So I can go ahead and I can manipulate these values to write it as a division problem. So I can do my division problem one of two ways. So my total value of 3,010, I can divide by 14, and that will give me t. Or I can take 3,010, and I can divide that by t to give me 14. So because I'm using inverse operations and I'm solving using the division equation, I can write 14t as 3,010, which I can represent as this division equation or this division equation. All right, number 2. Emily flew 2,184 miles in 12 hours. Her plane flew an equal number of miles each hour. Let M stand for the miles flown each hour. Write an equation to represent one way you can find how many miles Emily plane flew each hour. So she flew a total of 2,184 miles in 12 hours, and it was an equal amount. So I can write, and M is representing my variable. So the first way that I could write this is I could write it as a multiplication equation, where 12m equals 2,184. Because to solve this, I'm going to need to do my division equation. Okay. The other way that I can write it is I can actually write it as a division equation, where I do 2,184 divided by 12 is equal to m. Equations would work in this situation, although I will tell you I prefer to do the multiplication equation because that's where we've been working, where we have the total on one side and we have the variable with the coefficient on the other side. All right, take a look at number 3. It says use the multiplication equation. So we have 23d equals 2,392. So I'm going to use each multiplication equation to write a division equation, and then I'm going to solve. So if I were to swap this using a division equation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2,392 divided by 23 is going to be equal to d. Now I'm going to solve. So I'm going to do my work off over here. So I'm going to do 23 divided into 2,392. 23 goes into 23 one time. 23 times 1 is 23. I'm going to subtract. And then I'm left with 0. I bring down the 9. 23 goes into 9 0 times. And then I bring down the 2. And then 23 is going to go into 92. How many times we're going to figure that out? So I'm going to take a look here at 2. I'm going to take a look here at the 9. 2 goes into 9 about 8 times. So let's see what happens if I do 23. I'm sorry, not 8 times. It goes in there about 4 times. So I'm going to do 23 times 4. 4 times 3 is going to be 2. I regroup the 1. 4 times 2 is going to be 8, plus 1 is going to be 9. So it's going to go in there 4 times for an answer of 23 times 4 is 92, 0. So D is going to equal 104. All right, let's take a look at my next one. So my next one that I have is I have 74t equals 6,179. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flip it around. So I'm going to do 6,179 and I'm going to divide that by 74 to equal t. And I'm going to solve for t. So I'm going to put it in the box. 74 goes into 6,179. So 74, I look here at 61. It cannot go into 61. So I need to look at how many times it's going to go into 617. So I look at 7 is going to go into 61 about 8 times. So I'm going to, off on the side, I'm just going to do 74 times 8 and see what I get. 8 times 4 is going to be 2. Regroup the 3. 8 times 7 is going to be 56 plus 3 is going to be 592. So I'm going to go ahead and do that there. So I'm going to put an 8. I get 592. I'm left with 5. Regroup the 1. 25. Perfect. 25 is less than 74, so it works. And I'm going to bring down the 9. And then 7 is going to go into 259. It's going to go in there about 3 times. So I'm going to do 7d4, not 77, 74 times 3. 4 times 3 is going to be 12. I regroup the 1. 3 times 7 is going to be 21, plus 1 is going to be 22. So I'm going to do 83. I get 222. 9 minus 2 is going to be 7. 5 minus 2 is going to be 3. So my answer is going to be remainder 37. 83, remainder 37. All right. So the last problem that I'm going to take a look at is I have 11y equals 10,857. And so when I look at this, I'm going to flip it around. So I have 10,857 divided by 11 equals y. and then we're going to solve for what y equals. And I'm going to set up my problem. So I have 1,857 divided by 11. So 11 is going to go into, cannot go into 10, so it's going to go into 108 9 times. That's 99. I'm going to subtract. This becomes a 9, becomes 18. So I have 9 left over. I'm going to bring down my 5. 11 is going to go into 95 8 times. That's going to be 88. Subtract, I have 7. I'm going to bring down my 7. 11 is going to go into 7 times. Multiply, subtract for a remainder of 0. So my answer is y equals 987. All right, so you are going to do all of your independent practice and then all of your math practices and problem solving where you are solving for a variable. So you're solving for y. You may need to be rewriting your equations like we did here, but you are definitely going to be using the division algorithm to solve for that unknown value.